I would like to really make sure that from this conversation, the world needs to know that being a feminist is not being a male hater. It's hating what patriarchy, which is mainly male privileges, does to women.
Firstly, I think it's important to address this idea of negative connotations around the word feminism should not be surprising to anyone. One, because what happens when you resist the status quo is that the status quo fights back. And one of the ways in which that is to craft a narrative around feminism. The issue is not the word, the issue is the message. Feminism challenges the status quo, it challenges power structures. So it really doesn't matter what you want to call it. Ultimately, if you are living by those politics, and those politics have to be about challenging the power, right? Then it doesn't matter what you name yourself. Because either way, you will have some sort of backlash. You will have some sort of resistance, because that's just how systems of oppression work.
We are in Kampala, Uganda. This is the capital, and the rain gods have opened on us. But guess what? The show must go on, because today we're going to be discussing a very fiery topic here: gender parity or lack thereof. It is in this country that the Minister of Tourism suggested that women should be added onto the list of attractions for tourists. That garnered a lot of reactions, and we're going to get some of them right here. So let's open this discussion with, I suppose we'll come to you, Patricia. What gives? What is the current situation in Uganda in as far as egalitarianism is concerned?
I mean, I think that Uganda is a lot like other societies, right? In that it's very patriarchal in nature. So this is a country where a minister can get on TV and say that women are tourist attractions just for their bodies. It's the same country where media houses are still telling women that because they're educated, their marriages are failing. It's the same country where an MP can get up and say women need to be disciplined by their husbands. Uganda is deeply entrenched in the patriarchy. I think that the few feminists who exist in this country and exist loudly are met with constant attacks. Yeah, so I guess in a lot of ways we still have a long way to go.
Okay, you say that you have a long way to go, but not everybody thinks that there's actually any reason to go anywhere. Monday, you say that there's no need for changing anything. Society was created like this by our forefathers for a reason.
Well, I don't say there's no need of changing anything, but I'm saying that the speed at which the women want things changed is what actually is very, very alarming. And of course, we all know that women, they play the role of making a home. For example, it takes 1,000 men to form a battalion, but only one woman to make a home. So implying that they are homemakers, and that has been a position. Only that now when it comes to this hula baloo of emancipation and equality, that's why we are having homes breaking, because they are running out from their cardinal role.
Gender equality in a world of a feminist is the reimagination of what even gender looks like, right? It's taking gender out of the binary cis-het understanding, right? And allowing for people who exist outside those binaries and on a large spectrum to be able to fully embody their true selves, firstly. Secondly, it's dismantling systems of oppression ultimately, because that's why I do the work, is because we need to dismantle the systems of oppression that keep us in this way.
In Africa, we look at a woman's body as being sacred. That is why when a minister or public service, or when Uganda comes up with a policy and say, look here, women must decently dress, because they look at a woman's body as a treasure, an African treasure. But now, if you're very comfortable with exposing what we look at there, then women are saying, no, because look here. So my sister was saying...
But doesn't that mean yes, that the body belongs to the man and he has authority over it?
You belong to society.
Oh.
Yes.
Actually,
Oh, no. I have to remove the microphone right there. Women do not belong to society.
And
You
where
are
do they belong?
allowed
Where do they belong?
to themselves.
To
To themselves.
Let me give an example. Let me give an example. In the African setting, we don't live in isolation. We believe in clans. We believe in our tribal setting. Then, lastly, she did really talk about the issue of the dress code. I strongly support that. She did talk about that men are behaving like frightened young children. I think that is a misrepresentation fact. In the African setting, a man is a protector of his community. Therefore, when you see things that you hold dear, somebody messing up with them, remember, spare the rod and spoil it.
So there's a lot of misunderstanding of what African culture is, and that's really, I think, because people don't read enough. People are unaware that African culture, one, is not monolithic. There is no one African culture, right? Two, culture is made by people. Culture is not handed down from the skies. People make that culture because it benefits a particular status quo, right? So I have absolutely no qualms about resisting any culture that tells me that simply because I was born a woman, by no fault of my own, I am less than. I reject that. I reject those notions, right? Two, three, a lot of our culture is actually adulterated, right? Because when we were colonized by the British, as we were, they imposed on us a lot of Victorian narratives, a lot of Victorian ideals that we then imagine are our culture. There's cultures in this Uganda where women walk around bare-breasted, right? So how dare you tell me then in another culture that I must fully be clothed to be decent, to be considered human? There are a lot of inconsistencies that we must begin to unpack. The problem is that we're not investing enough time in appreciating truly what African culture is, right? When we look at even our pre-colonial history, there is examples of the ways in which, and I would actually really encourage a lot of Ugandans specifically to read up on how it is our culture came to be defined as it is today. Because the truth is, a lot of what we imagine to be our culture is really not.
One of the greatest lies and injustices of patriarchy and sort of racism, colonialism, white supremacy, and all of this, one of the greatest lies and fallacies about them is that women are their own worst enemies. Women can't trust other women. Patriarchy uses women and grants women status when they're oppressing other women. Because any system of oppression needs to co-opt, people like Audre Lorde talked about this many years ago, needs to co-opt those it is oppressing in order to maintain it. So we had the institutions of, the tyrannical mother-in-law. If you're a married woman, person who inflicted that pain on you was your mother-in-law who mistreated you and so on. There are all these kinds of institutions that have been developed in order to ensure that women are inflicting and narrating those stories about the wickedness and the unreliability, the emotional reaction of women to people and how that is very unreliable. The fact that they're sneaky, they're wicked. I'm sure everybody has grown up with those kinds of stories in their head. Of course, what that means is that women do not get together, do not come together to sit down and think for themselves about, hang on a second, it's telling us that we can't rely on one another. And I've heard this told, Abakasi, this and Abakasi that. We have so many saying about, sayings about women in our cultures as the harbingers of evil and so on. And so the idea then is to dissipate women's ability to come together and think for themselves and decide for themselves whether this is a lie or whether this is actually a real thing, right? And so this notion, we couldn't have a movement that was rife with those kinds of notions.
It's also one way of keeping women separate, to tell them you can't work together so that they don't work together. In my experience, I prefer working with women. I work with women. When I'm in a convening with women, I make sure that we do not confirm the negative stereotypes about when women meet, all they do is fight, sabotage each other. And we have the skills because we are the managers, we are the ones who manage homes, we manage meetings. Why can't we manage our own? So it's a stereotype. And for me, it's not a challenge because I have enough feminist rage to do the right thing.
My friends are still my friends. Let me concentrate on myself. And this photograph of four as friends at Budo, it was in 1946. It was in 1946. 46 or 47, I can't remember. But this, you forget this. Someone gave me this stand when I was 18, and I put in this photograph. So Jane continued to be my. I have a picture of Jane there. That photograph was taken here in 1917 when she came to visit me from America. She had been in America for a long time. When she came to visit me in 1917, that picture was taken when we were sitting here. And she died in 1918. And my tribute, I had to send a tribute. She was buried in America. Because her children are there, the Ugandans. This to show you that the friendships of the past lasted. But friendships of today, maybe if you're surprised, if you have that experience or you hear, maybe they get so many, but still they keep, I believe, they still keep a few with them, a few friends. But in school you may be with so many, but it's difficult one not to keep a few friends for life. So Beatrice, until she died, she was my friend. And her daughter called to tell my friend had died. I was able to ask someone here, I came back soon after. I wasn't able to go and visit, but I sent messages. Also, I sent a message which they read at the wedding. Fortunately, she had this photograph. And I sent, maybe they didn't know where the photograph, Beatrice had put it, but I sent this on phone, on the smartphone, and they put it in the program. So this made all the people who came to the funeral to see this photograph in the program to show that surely Rhoda Kalema, then Rhoda Sibira, was a friend of Mama Beatrice. I'm glad I have some examples to show you.
We all need partners to walk on this, along this with us. The more of us there are, the better. And so I see us as part of a continuum. It's also true for all of us that without our sisters, without our friends, many of us would find life very difficult. And so it's an expression of that support, that solidarity that carried us through many, many, many difficult moments. It's both an expression of an experience and how that experience has carried us through different difficult periods, a remembrance of that, but it's also a political tool to defy those patriarchal notions about about womanhood, about personhood. Yeah.
I see myself as someone who has committed to feminism, firstly because I am a Black African woman, right? And for me, this is about survival. It's about survival for me, it's about survival for my sisters, it's about survival for you, it's about survival for the young men and women across. I exist as a part of a movement in this country, and there is no me without the many, many sisters who allow me to do this work, who support and who keep us in community.